Hello, BookTube. We're going to start Shelf 3 of the first bookcase, Part 2. This next section of books are, or this next collection of books, are a set that I've had a long history with. When I first got married and we were expecting our first child, I told my wife I'd had these books as a little boy. My sisters and I were pretty rough on them. We'd colored in them, read them to death, but we loved them. And the images from the books have stayed with me always. They're well-known images, a lot of them. But after I had that conversation with her, about a week, maybe, if I remember right, went by, and I was in a hospice thrift store down in Florida, and there they were. Now, they were in a box, which I don't remember ours ever being in, but they probably were, and we destroyed that box, I'm sure. We would have gotten them when they were new, so I would have been probably just about to go into kindergarten. So here they are. The Wonderful Worlds of Disney. These are golden books. Very excited to find them. The box is a little different than what we've seen so far. It's actually put together with tabs. I don't know if you can see the inside there, where it's all slid together. It's in remarkably good condition for being from 1965. Let's get to the books. The first is Walt Disney's Fantasyland. There's the cover. That is fine. The Wonderful Worlds of Walt Disney, Fantasyland. Illustration by the Walt Disney Studio, Golden Press, New York. Copyright 1965. Let me show you some quick images. You can see why these stick with you. Huh, I love this. Here in the wall. Oops, take my nose off. Oh, this, Sorcerer's Apprentice. The next one, Walt Disney's Worlds of Nature. The copyrights on these are all 1965. Then we have Walt Disney's America. The title pages are all really similar. And then finally, Walt Disney, Stories from Other Lands. Mary Poppins there. Sword and Stone. Everybody's favorite Dalmatians. Peter Pan. Stanley Robinson. Look at that. That's something. Zorro. So yeah, very exciting set to find. The next set's another Folio Society. This one here is the Complete Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne with decorations by E.H. Shepard. So we'll start here with Winnie the Pooh. Look at that. Folio Society, 2004. Decorations by E.H. Shepard. See if I can find you some typical page here. Christopher Robin and Piglet. I love that picture. Then you have the complete poems for Christopher Robin. And papers. Title page. Same date. Dedication. And finally, the House at Pooh Corner. And papers. Title page. Now look at Tigger. I'm thinking about taking off my nose today with these books. So another nice folio set. We read these to our kids. And moving along, a couple more children's books. I'll grab a couple at a time here. Folio Society again. E.B. White, Charlotte's Web. Illustrations by Garth Williams, colored by Rosemary Wells. Folio Society, 2008. E.B. White, Charlotte's Web. There's the title page. And then on to one of my favorites. Wind in the Willows, Kenneth Graham. Look at this cover. If we can get it without too much glare there. And papers. Here's the title page. Illustrated by Charles Van Sandwyck. Folio Society, 2005. This is a second printing of 2006. bookmark the last time I read it. Great book. Let me grab a few more here. Moved out of the children's. This first one's technically a magazine, McSweeney's. Beautiful production. Glare. This is, put back a little bit. It's the back. The end papers, quite nice. There's a title page. Quite a beautiful production. See if they give it an edition. 2009 McSweeney's Quarterly Concern and the Contributors, San Francisco, California. This is used in older forms in this particular issue with more modern concerns, I believe. This particular volume is would have to be age appropriate, but you really know how to put out a magazine. So anyway, I got it as much for the looks. It's number 31. As anything else, right in the back here. Let's see if I open it up. It's actually going to be a little difficult to handle without ripping it. Let's see if I can do it. Oh, there's a magazine, or a quarterly, I don't know what you'd call it. Next is a really odd little volume. I live in Vermont. So the Vermont volumes always catch my eye. I don't know how well you can see this. Cap here is a little tore up. That's what happens if you grab your books like this. Mount Lebanon to Vermont. Let's see. The autobiography of George Haddad. The Tuttle Company, publishers, Rutland, Vermont. Excuse me, 1916. So the way that ink is bleeding through there under the date makes me think that this here is Mr. Haddad's signature. If anybody can read that, I'd be glad to hear from you. So, Mount Lebanon to Vermont, autobiography of George Haddad, taken down by his daughter, Emily Marie Haddad, with the assistance of Bernice Rachel Tuttle, with an introduction by John Abner Mead, Doctor of Literature and a medical doctor, Governor of Vermont, 1910 to 1912. And then we'll quote, as the mountains are round about Jerusalem. And there's Mr. George Haddad and his family. Quite nice. So, he had a boyhood in Syria, travels around the Mediterranean, America at last, visits to Syria, the new home in America, followed by Syrian recipes. Then with the appendix is a repent from the bulletin AMNH, whatever that is. I would find out. List of subscribers to this book, which is also very interesting. So here's a page here with a photograph. Correct Drew's Costume, that's the title. St. George, patron saint of Syria. So the list of subscribers is also interesting to me. My family's been in Vermont for centuries. So when I see an old list like this, in this case there's none of my family in it, but there actually was family who I suspect is related to folks I know. So these were the subscribers. They would purchase the book before it was printed, and there's quite a list of them, listed by town, with Rutland being where the book's published and where Mr. Haddad's from. So they start with Rutland, they don't go alphabetically, and then many pages of Rutland subscriptions. So he must have been held in some esteem in that town. Then say here you'd go to Middlebury, Vermont, Manchester, Newport, Vermont. So the subscription list, as well as, I'm sure, Mr. Haddad's story. Very interesting. To that, we go to 2 volumes of a rather well-known publication. The Lakeside Press's, I think they're annual. I may be wrong about that. These little editions they put out, I think, every year. You see them, I think I've seen them blue. The only 2 I own are right here, and I'll show them both to you. You can look at that. So it's R.R. Donnelly and Sons Company, the Lakeside Press, and papers. Small, hand-sized, pocket-sized things. This one's Lakeside Classics, The Rough Riders by Theodore Roosevelt. Edited by Marifelli Perez Stable, Lakeside Press, R.R. Donnelly and Sons Company, December 2003. So they're reprints of them. But they're just... I love the size of them. I love how they're produced. Oh, look at this. You can go online and see whole lists of these. If you ever run into them, they're quite nice to have. This next one is another Lakeside Press. 20 Years Before the Mass. Erskine is the author. Come on a little bit there. There's the back of it, just like that. Again, the same end papers. 20 Years Before the Mast. Excuse me. With the thrilling scenes and incidents while circumnavigating the globe under the command of the late Admiral Charles Wicks, 1838 to 1842. By Charles Erskine, edited by Thomas Philbrook. Okay, I wonder if that's who I think it is. Lakeside Press, R.R. Donnelly and Sons Company, December 2006. And it has an image here of Charles Erskine as a young sailor. This is about the U.S. exploring expedition. Now, Nathaniel Philbrook wrote a history of that, so I don't know what the connection there is, but somebody out there may know. Yeah, Philbrook's history of the expedition is wonderful, too. I have not read this. I grabbed it because I liked it, but it definitely would be something I would enjoy. A little bit of color in that one. See if you can see that. Now we're getting here close to the end of the shelf. Well, here's an odd volume. Sometimes you run in something like this and just pick it up because it's a curiosity. Doesn't look like much. End papers are nice. This is the collected essays of Charles Lamb in 2 volumes, and this is volume 2. I do not have volume 1. Normally, well, you'll see I do this more than once, but look at this. Miscellaneous Essays and Sketches by Charles Lamb, with an introduction by Robert Lind and notes by William MacDonald. Fully illustrated with 25 drawings by C.E. Brock and 24 contemporary portraits in photogravure. Published in London and Toronto by J.M. Dent & Sons Limited. And in New York by E.P. Dutton and Company Incorporated. In the year 1929. When we go to the book section, you'll hear a little more about Dent and publications. So this is what it says, essays and sketches, and some of them are just great. I've dipped into them a little bit, just for fun. Here's one. I actually read this on burial, on burial societies and the character of an undertaker, to the editor of the Reflector. And there are all sorts of these little odd pieces. I have a little trouble with my voice today. William Wordsworth. A little section on the death of Coleridge. There he is. G.F. Cook as Richard III, for those of you who are into Shakespeare. So that's Charles Lamb, odd volume, but fun. And the next one is a Folio Society that I got used. Doesn't have the slipcase, a little bit of sunwear cover. Love the hair. This is about Hector Berlioz. This is A Life of Love and Music, the memoirs of Hector Berlioz, 1803 to 1865, translated and edited by David Cairns. 1987, the Folio Society, and you can see the cover hair matches Mr. Berlioz's real life do. I haven't read this. It's got a little bit of damage here. Somebody got a hold of the page a little oddly there. You probably see that. But I am reading stuff about Berlioz right now. Harriet Smithson, when Berlioz married in 1833. I believe she was an English actress. The volumes I'm reading about Berlioz, which I'll show you here in a second. There you go. Are quite intense. I don't have a music background. I listen to a lot of music. I have a pretty large collection of LPs. So I like to read and educate myself with it as best I can, but every once in a while I get in over my head. This set here I found recently. There's his hair tamed a little bit in this one. Berlioz in a Romantic Century by Jacques Brizon. I've read other stuff of his before and not had to struggle so much. This third edition again makes available to today's readers the classic and comprehensive study of one of the most radical and influential composers. 2 volumes illustrated. Columbia University Press, New York and London. So far, so good. 2 volumes. So, you can see where the bookmark is. And sold as a set, $5, not bad. Yeah, that wild hair again. Berlioz in the Romantic Century, Jacques Brizon, Volume 1, 3rd edition, Columbia University Press, New York and London, 1969. I'm reading through this right now. On page 288. Yeah, it's a bit of a slog. I don't believe it's because the writing. There's nothing wrong with the writing. Obviously, Jacques Brizon. There's nothing wrong with having footnotes. I have an addiction for footnotes. It's my lack of a musical background that I think is causing me to struggle. I'll get through it. But with somebody with a background, if they got through it, they'd walk away with a lot more than I will. But anyhow, it's one of those challenges to finish. So we have other books by him in the library, our library here, and we'll get to them eventually. But this one here is a bit of a challenge. So finally, we get the end here. This is a set of books that you see on YouTube, on BookTube all the time. These are the token sets. So start here with Hobbit. Should be very familiar to everyone, or to most folks. I got these because of size and convenience, and I like the volumes. Again, the Hobbit, very similar but without the gold. Fellowship of the Ring. Let's see if this. Return of the King. And finally, the Two Towers. I first read these books, would have been in the early 1970s. There's a story behind that we'll get to when we get to the Tolkien section. Got a lot of the older stuff. Not a huge collection, but books that I loved as a young man, and that pretty much does it for the, what is it, third shelf. We have 2 more shelves to go on the first bookcase. Thank you, BookTube.